Well, hello there. It's the 10th of April 2020 and here you are with Dan in Essex, UK. So I've got an action-packed episode today and loads of things to show you, some really exciting things. At this time of year it's lovely when one looks around the garden or the allotments because I can see so many things happening. Things are springing into action, brought on much better by this lovely, beautiful, warm weather we've got. So there we go. Now, you may remember this tree. Many of you have seen this before, and what this is an apple tree I grafted myself. Now, what I suggest people do when they graft is to make a good note somewhere of what variety they are grafting, because I didn't, and I don't know what variety this is. Now, I got the scion from Stephen Hayes on the Stephen Hayes Fruitwise website, so I suggest you check that one out if you're interested in apples, fruits, orchardeering, permaculture. It's a really good channel indeed. So anyway, with that being said, this tree is doing very well here. I'm probably going to grow it into a cordon as it matures, but it's really putting out a nice bit of growth. And I'm thinking that when I grafted this, I probably grafted it onto MM106 rootstock, which I purchased from Blackmore Nursery. So I'll just put the camera down here where you can see. So that's probably that's where I grafted it down there. You can probably just see where the cut that I made is. But it's doing very well. And I'm expecting it one day to be a really productive tree. But look at this. I think it's going to set its first crop. Look at that, look. Can you just see that there? Really lovely. And it'll be very interesting to see what fruits it produces. So there we are. Nice little flowers ready to come out, all being well. And I'll just, hang on, just bring this one here. There we go. That one like that, look. Just see that there. So it's looking like I'm going to get some apples off of this year. So very nice indeed, and a very sturdy looking tree. Right, so some of you may remember the video I put up last year or the year before, something like that, about how to grow a clematis in containers. So I've got two. This is one I've got growing in a container. I'll show you the other one in a moment. Now, I've got it in this 25 or 30 litre container. Now, generally it's advised, okay, if you're going to grow a clematis in a container, you use a wooden pot because it doesn't hold as much heat as these dark plastic pots here. But because clematis are said to like their roots cool, not particularly cold. Sorry, not particularly warm, haha. But it doesn't seem to have caused too much trouble here, and it's grown really well in here. Got a flower out already and loads more to come, and it shoots all the way up this beam pole here. Now, I like to have clematis because they look really beautiful and really lovely, so I'm quite happy with that. And very nice for bees as well. There's plenty of bees around here at the moment. I've been noticing them. Well, I say plenty, you know, I'm seeing a few, but in a few weeks there should be a lot more. So it's really good to have things like this, you know, for insects really. So doing really well. Going to give this some water today, and what I'll do when it's finished flowering is from the stem here I'll cut it about 1 foot up and then let it grow, and that should be where I get my flowers on next year. So like I'm always a year ahead with it. So this is another clematis I got growing in a container, very good indeed, and you can see a flower coming now. I think these are variety Montano Rubens. This is probably the one here that I did the video on of how to grow a clematis in a container. Check that video out if you're interested, if you want to get into this. You know, if you don't have a big garden or whatever, but you still want a clematis, you can grow them in a container, no problem. So the container grown rose is doing very well. Some of my viewers who have been with me for a while may be aware of when I got this. It has lovely flowers on it. Now, one of my customers didn't want it anymore and gave it to me, basically. They asked me to dig it up and discard of it. Well, I said I'll take it, and I've had it in this pot. It puts out some lovely sort of reddish flowers, really nice. Got a bit of black spot there, but I'm not going to worry too much about that, and I'm expecting some flowers to come on here before not too long, although I've just noticed some aphids there, so one may have to be putting a little bit of attention towards that. So you may remember that I've been growing daffodils and bulbs and things here. Now what I'm doing with these is I know they look a bit unsightly at this time of year, you know, when they're past their best, but I leave mine to die back fully before, you know, removing the foliage, if you will, because if you leave them, the goodness goes back into the bulb. Okay, some people say, you know, about the saying of daffodils, bulbs, etc. coming up blind the following year, meaning they don't have a flower. Well, sometimes this is because people, when they get to this stage, they cut them down with you know, secateurs or shears, or they go over them with a lawnmower. But my advice, if you want it, would be to leave them, let them die right back, and then, you know, so that the bulb can get the goodness back, and then cut them off or go over them with a mower. But give them a good period of time before tidying them up. Yeah, the grapevine's really starting to leaf out now. You know, this really will, you know, have some beautiful leaves on it before long. So not going to be too long, and hopefully a good crop to come. Okay, and the final thing to discuss today is the compost bin. So many of you will be aware I built this compost bin 10 days ago, something like that, maybe a bit longer. It's 7 foot wide, and I'm really getting into composting now because I hadn't done it properly for the last few years, but with everything going on, it's kind of spurred me on about you know, making a garden that's a bit more sort of in sync with the whole system, if you will. So really starting to build up, you know, a nice bit of compost medium here. So I'll show you what I've got. So this is the bin. Put it back like this, look. There you go, take a look at that. And got a lot of grass clippings on there. And what I've found with composting is the bigger the area you've got, the more forgiving it will be in terms of what you put into it. Now, the general idea is 2 parts of carbon to 1 part of nitrogen. That way you avoid that horrible you know, stink, if you will. Another way to describe it would be 2 browns to 1 green. You know, you can do some research on composting, but I've found that, you know, if you've got, when you have a big load of it, you can maybe get out of those ratios a little bit more, and you know, your compost will still produce. So this really is warm. Now, if one puts their hand in here like this, you know, you couldn't keep your hand in there for very long, because it really is doing what's thoroughly, you know, explained to as cooking. Okay, now I'm not suggesting you come out here and do it on site, but you know, chucking a bit of the old urine on here after a, you know, whatever, is one thing that I've found advantageous, because the urea can help it to cook. I remember I think it was Bob Flowerdew talking about that years ago, and you know, I've certainly found that very useful in terms of composting. But so you can see the old potato peelings there and all that. The general idea is, you know, you can put potato peelings on as long as the potatoes you're using weren't effectively blight. So yeah, really expecting this compost to probably be ready hopefully within the next 3 or 4 months. I turned it all, or some of it, the other day, and you can see that I've got sawdust here from, you know, logging projects and things like that. I put that in. That's a brown, okay, sawdust, meaning carbon. So as time goes on, and you know, I've got more time to budget on YouTube, I'm going to be talking a lot more about composting and how I make it. I used to make all sorts of compost years ago, you know, and also cooking horse manure to make compost as well. And if you have a cubic metre of horse manure, you can cook it very quickly, and the cooking process, in fact it's the same with compost like this, can, you know, help to kill the weed seeds. Okay, therefore you can put a lot more in that maybe you couldn't if you were slowly making the compost, if you understand my meaning. So yeah, expecting this to be quite nutritious when it's in. But there you go, can you see that steam? You can, can't you? But I mean, that is incredibly warm in there, and at this early stage of compost making, there won't be any worms in here because it's not at that stage yet. And also the fact, if there was, they would get absolutely fried, because that's, you know, you put your finger in there, you can't hold it for very long. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so here into the polytunnel, and even in here, you know, I'm seeing daily changes now. The autumn royal grapevine putting out more and more leaves as the days go by. You can see here as well, there. And the new peach tree variety Peregrine has actually set some fruit. Here you go. So you can see it's not going to be too long. We'll get some little fruit on the new peach tree. I'm not sure how the Lord Napier, a bit behind I've noticed. It might get a few little fruits on there. So very, very nice. Right. If you like my work, please feel free to like, share and subscribe. And you can check me out on Dan_Home Gardens if you're interested. See you next time.